What's up, everybody? My name is Jason, and welcome to Small Biz. It is Friday, TGIF, April the 14th, 2023. And in today's unedited, glass half full video, I'm going to give you a quick but very positive update on the EIDL program. And then we're going to talk about the dangers of trading small cap penny stocks, in particular, XELA, MMAT, and MCOM, whose CEO not only wants an apology, but is apparently taking down names so he can laugh and or smile in your face. All that and more coming right up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you for all the birthday wishes. I, in fact, did turn 53 years young last night. And while I must say it was one of the more depressing, stressful, fill-in-the-blank birthdays I've ever had. I had a wonderful dinner on Wednesday night. I've got another one tonight and tomorrow. But to say it hasn't been a challenging week would be an understatement. In fact, I wasn't supposed to be here. I was supposed to take yesterday, my birthday, and today off, but duty calls because we not only came roaring back with XELA, but then we had a bomb dropped with an offering on MMAT. More on that in a second. I want to start off with why most of you are here. By the way, welcome back. 98% of you haven't watched the video, according to my analytics now, in almost a year. But shout out to the great Speak and See. And once again, I do appreciate the birthday wishes, my friend. He told you in a video a couple of days ago that it's very possible, although you're not going to hear anything immediately from the SBA, that you're going to get another 6 months in terms of the 90% deferment on your payment. So you've all had to go to lending.sba.gov. You now have a new portal to make payments. If you haven't made a payment in the last month and a half, you got to go over to a new site because pay.gov no longer works. But inside there, you have a way, and you can always call the SBA if you need help, to defer your payments, to reduce and defer 90% of your payment for 6 months. But as the great Speak and See pointed out, I believe, based on what I'm hearing, sometime in July or August, before the 6 months runs out, there's going to be another extension to get you through next year, beyond the primaries, and it probably goes even longer than that. But I just shared, if that's not good enough news, on Twitter, make sure you follow me at Try Small Biz, Thomas Sweezy, a Republican congressman who left a year or so ago to consider running for governor, but he may in fact challenge the train wreck known as George Santos. And why I don't always agree with Mitt Romney, in fact, I rarely do, he's a rhino in the Senate. If you can get your hands on the video where Mitt rips Santos apart at the State of the Union address, I believe he called him a clown and told him he doesn't belong on the floor. So Thomas Sweezy was the guy, along with other members of the Problem Solvers Caucus in the House, that in July of 2020, just a few months after this madness known as the pandemic began, put forward a bill to lower the interest rate to 1% and defer the interest so it doesn't accrue like it has relentlessly for the last 2 years. So I will be in touch. I am from New York State with Thomas and other members of the Problem Solvers Caucus, but you haven't heard me say anything recently. Why? Because we were told to pipe it down. I had broken damn near every rule, got blocked by a number of House and Senate members, and there was no way we were going to get the program reopened up in terms of the additional 12 months or 24 months of working capital. There were 5,000 or 6,000 people. Slow down, Jason. There were 5,000 or 6,000 people that didn't get the money that they were promised. Most of those people, we now know, had amended returns, and some of them got stuck on a tractor trailer for more than 12 months. So if you had an amended return and you didn't get your money on time, it's not that we haven't given up on you. We were basically told to go pound sand. There's no way in hell they're going to change it. But if you want another 6 months of 90% deferment, and if you haven't done it yet, go watch the great Speak and See or my video from probably 3 or 4 months ago. You can apply to do so. And then you stay on the lookout for an announcement in July or August before the 6 months is up for another extension. Because when you have an economy like this that's tipping into a potential recession, you got the Fed that's going to end interest rate hikes on their May 3rd meeting. We have everything in place to get not only another 6 months of 90% deferment on your payments, again, it's lending.sba.gov, but along with Thomas Sweezy and Big Ben fucking Cardin in the Senate, we are going to push, mostly behind the scenes, to get the removal of the accrual of interest, which is killing small business owners, to get more than 12 months, in my opinion, of 90% reduction. And yes, at some point before the election begins, and we don't know at this point who it's actually going to be to run up against Weekend at Bernie's. What is it now? Part 10? Don't get me started. Look, Jason, get back on track. Did you see him? He said he was never going to leave Ireland. Here, hey, Beer Nuts, do us all a favor. Head on down to the local pub and have about 14 Guinnesses and never get back on Air Force fucking One, because you are the worst effing president in the history of this country. But I digress. It looks like you're going to be able to get another 6 month, a year in total, of 90% reduction. We are going to push, along with the help of Thomas Sweezy, and boy, Tom, what a great way to campaign, huh? Small business owners, not only in New York, but Georgia and around this country, have been decimated. We can't afford the interest. We do not want to pay 3.75. It needs to be down near 1%. And yes, before this election takes place in 24, we're going to move heaven and earth behind the scenes and out in front as we get closer to get the SBA EIDL loans forgiven so that you never pay the SBA a fucking dime. With that said, XELA, last trade 051 was as high as 0595. And yes, some of you asked me, did I sell some? A tiny amount, 2 or 3%. It was my biggest position. And in case you didn't hear me, and many of you didn't, we've lost $7,000 a month in premium membership at trysmallbiz.com. I am not a multimillionaire and cannot afford a loss like that. So yes, when I had a 20+% position and it got up near 6, I took a little off the table, but not enough to announce, because when I announce on Twitter at TrySmallBiz, I'm selling at minimum half. But if I'm going to trim a tiny amount here or there to pay a bill or to pay something down, I don't need to tell you guys that. I am long a shit ton of stock at 062. It traded down along with the rest of market. Dow was off 250 at one point, down to 0485, but it's since rebounded. Last trade 0515. If it's me and you're long, I take a look at the fact that we were 032 at the lows about a month ago. We then had massive institutional buying at around 3.5 to 4 cents. The company came out in their last press release and announced the fact that their at the market offering, which did dilute the damn thing to 1 billion shares, is over. So it started to melt up, and it's traded very intelligently. I've shared a number of graphs where XELA has done a nice stair step from down 60% plus on paper at 032 to as high as almost 6 cents today. And again, in the midst of a bad market. And as I said this morning, the MACD, the stochastics, the RSI, those are the 3 indicators that I use, are overbought on the daily. But the weekly, which is weekly, and even the monthly, just had its first bullish crossover on the stochastics, as one example, in almost a year. So you're going to have a tug of war between the daily and the weekly. And why do I think the weekly is going to win? And this is not a guarantee. Look at what happened today. You've got a stock that's up 65% or thereabouts. We went from a 60% drawdown on paper to only a 4% loss for me this morning when I trimmed a little. Like, holy shit. Again, that's like giving you 2 or 3 tricas, which we made 32%. And by the way, shout out to all those haters who told me I was wrong for getting out at 28.4 for a 32% profit. Didn't I see it at 23 and change this morning? I was right. You were wrong. And I'm going to be right about XELA and MMAT and MCOM, which I'll get to towards the end. So, bottom line, I do not recommend overloading in the stock. There is going to be, whether it's next month or in June or July, a reverse split. But somebody, and I believe it's large institutional money mixed in with a bit of a short covering, is moving this stock in a very negative market, particularly for small caps. So I do believe last trade 0516 on XELA We're coming out of the ditch and it's going higher. MMAT, ruin the party. Just to let all of you that are new know, welcome. We don't edit around here. I swear, usually like a drunken sailor. And I haven't mentioned the EIDL program in a long time because the scammers are going to be in the comments. Once again, never email or text anyone any money. I'm not on Instagram, Telegram, or WhatsApp. I'm on the 4 major social networks. You'll see the blue check on Twitter. You'll see 81,000 followers on Facebook, almost 76K on YouTube. Everything else is a scam. If there happens to be a 0.000001 chance that you want to pay me $1 a day, and it's about like that, it's trysmallbiz.com. Hit the Get Premium button to get in the game. But ladies and gentlemen, we had a 42% drawdown, and I've been trading markets 32 years. Half of that time as a broker, but I left when I got wiped out in 2008. This is what you call a senior moment, and we don't edit around here. So allow me to take a drink and try and recall what I was about to say. I now remember. 53 years young, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not as sharp as a tack anymore, but you'll never see me hiding under the desk. Even in the midst of my birthday weekend. XELA is coming back. MMAT ruined the party. Because I went from a 42% drawdown on paper this morning when XELA was almost at 6 cents, I would have been only down 13.5%. Even with the slide in MCOM, which I'm going to cover towards the end of this video. But then we all saw they did a massive offering after the CEO not only said he wasn't going to do an offering, and I'm talking about George from Greece. We've got Sal from Sicily. Is there anything in common with those two guys? Yeah, more on that in a second. But they came out with an offering, and George at MMAT, and I'm still a believer in the stock, said he was never going to reverse split the stock or do an offering under his watch. Well, George, we all have a question because not only did you do a massive offering at all-time lows of 30 cents last trade, 23.05, so it is fighting back from as low as 21. But unless you get this fucking stock up over $1 organically in the next 3 months, so you do have some time, you've got one of two options. You're going to go to the pink sheets, the bulletin board, the OTC, which is not necessarily a death sentence. You might recall when I gave you Lucky Coffee. It's a Chinese coffee maker. It went pink sheets or bulletin board a couple years ago at $1. It recently hit 30. So it's not a death sentence if they decide to go to the pink sheets or OTC if they can't get back over $1. But if you intend to stay on NASDAQ, George, and not do a reverse split, which you said will never happen on your watch, boy, oh boy, do you have your work cut out with last trade 23.10, because unless that stock goes up, what is that? Fourfold and is able to hold $1 for 10 consecutive trading days, you are going to get delisted and will have no choice. So if it's me, ladies and gentlemen, and this has to do with ethics, I'm not buying anymore. And I'm going to do another video explaining why you have to get comfortable with looking at a large paper loss when a CEO like George or a guy named Sal who runs MCOM, formerly known as Hellbiz, breaks a code of ethics. Whether you want to call it flat out fucking lies to you or withholds some of the truth, I'll leave that up to those that are watching. So with that said, MCOM, Sal, the one and only, put out a tweet. Allow me to find it, ladies and gentlemen, and this will only take me a couple of minutes, and you might be surprised on how I handle this. Quote, this is 3 hours ago. This is Sal, the CEO of MCOM, formerly known as Hellbiz, a stock that is down 99.7% since they went public as a $10 SPAC 2 years ago under the symbol HLBZ. Now MCOM, last trade $1.58. And if you've got third grade math like I do, that's about 3 cents. So you could have sold it at 12 cents a few weeks ago before they did a 1 for 50 reverse split. And this clown, whose quote I'm about to read out loud, told you to hang in there. Major transformation coming. And guess what happened? Ladies, plug your ears. Fellas, you got bent over this desk without any lube whatsoever, and Sal and his entire management team and Yorkville all lined up. I know this is bad. I want to stand up. I want to stand up and give you the visual as to what just happened to people like myself that have lost almost 75% of their money on paper in less than 3 weeks. But it was in and up. Shout out to my friend Larry Poulin, without any lube whatsoever. So I have 3 questions for the one and only Salvatore after I read this quote. It's amusing, he says, to see people revel in a stock's decline. Who's reveling? I'm certainly not reveling. The ignorance is truly fascinating. Ignorance. Who's ignorant? This guy or those of us like myself that have lost 3/4 of our fucking money in the last 3 weeks? But I continue. Remember, I don't give up. Well, isn't that just admirable? Isn't that admirable? The average investor who owns the stock, according to the VWAP at $16.20, has lost approximately 90% of their money in the last 3 weeks, but this guy's not going to give up. I continue. I'm keeping track of names. This one really gets me. Who? Me? Good luck with that. Actually, I hope you do keep track of exactly what I say on fucking paper and videos, because if this ever goes to court and we have dozens, maybe even hundreds of tweets like this one to share with the judge and or the jury, you have no chance. But if you're actually wasting time, Sal, keeping track of clowns that have fake ass names like Kiss My Effin' Ass 239 on Twitter, what does that say about you as a CEO? Do you really have that much time to keep track of names? And I continue. We'll be in touch soon. How are you going to be in touch? How are you going to be in touch? Share intel? Your lawyers? Do you realize what you're stepping into? I don't think you do. And let's see who's going to be the one with a smile on their face. 3 questions as we unpack one of the most outrageous, tone-deaf tweets from one of the most moronic CEOs in the history of humankind. And again, keep in mind, I have been in the business, or I was, for 15 years. I sat upstairs and I was going to bring my cake down and show you. In fact, I am going to bring my fucking cake down. This is going to be one of a kind. One of my favorite channels, Think Media. Think Media said props. Props are very good. Props help with views and videos to go viral. So ladies and gentlemen, as I get a breath of air, what you see here is a chocolate cake, devil's food, with the same frosting, Betty Crocker, and sprinkles, which I love. Because last night, as I turned 53, I was by myself, somewhat depressed, angry. And as I had one large piece of cake, I sat on my couch watching Frasier, one of my favorites, Cozy TV. And I said, you know, in all my years, and this is before this fucking quote, have I ever seen anything like this? And the answer is no. I've had pink sheet stocks go to zero. I'm talking zero. Removed off the board, can't find them anymore. Where I lost everything as a broker. And I never once had a complaint, let alone a lawsuit against me, because I tell the truth. But I'm sitting there racking my brains, down 75% or thereabouts. And MCOM, have I ever seen, and we may as well add this one to the list, a more moronic, tone-deaf, idiotic buffoon in the history of the stock market? After people have been wiped out, some of them have lost 80 or 90%. They're in way over their head. Have we ever seen anyone say anything like this ever? The answer for me, and I've been around the block longer than most of you, is no. So I chewed on this cake by myself, thinking, how the hell did I get into this? I've taken losses before. We were almost out of the ditch entirely. And if it wasn't for MMAT, we would have been damn near dancing in the street, and I may have a this one may have a black eye because of it. I hear you, man. So I've got 3 questions in closing. 1, Sal, we're still waiting. Were you or Yorkville responsible for 3 million shares or thereabouts that traded in the first 60 seconds on Thursday, April 5th? You have yet to respond as to why 2 times the average daily volume after the 1-for-50 reverse split traded. I know, we all fucking know that you were in there diluting the stock to the tune of $4, $5, $6 million, and you've yet to publicly denounce or say anything to the contrary. So we're waiting, and I would like all of these 3 questions answered on Twitter. Number 2, why haven't you and or anyone in your executive leadership team bought a single share of stock with it down 73% since the split? You either gifted yourself, you either used corporate funds to buy personal stock under HLBZ, you claim it was all legit and above board, fair enough. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that one. But my question is, and many of my followers and others that own the stock want to know, why haven't you stepped in with anyone with the stock down 73%, last trade 159 to buy any stock? You don't believe in what you're doing? Those 10 million plus shares that you bought at much higher levels, split adjusted as high as $12 to $15 a share, and you're not in there buying at $1.58? I'd like an answer to that one. If you're not buying, why? And by the way, 3rd question. And you said the other day that you have access to non-public information. In other words, that's why you're not buying any stock. Question number 3. We'd like to know what your strategy is without telling us the non-public information, because I find it flabbergasting that you would actually go through a rebranding. And again, I'm on record as saying Micro Mobility is a fantastic name. And if you weren't diluting and or demoralizing your shareholders and setting yourself up for a massive loss in court, this stock might have a chance. But I'd like to know, what the fuck were you thinking doing a rebrand and a reverse split without something lined up? All you've told us is you opened another phony ass fucking kitchen in New York City. How much is that going to add to the bottom line? What is that going to do for profitability? Something you said you were going to get to without doing a reverse split. Remember all those tweets? Oh, I'm not going to do a reverse split. Then it becomes, well, it's my intention not to do a reverse split. Then you had a sneaky ass vote and you got the green light to go ahead and do it. And then you did it. And then you not only did it, but you bent us all over the desk without any lube whatsoever and took 3/4 of our money. So question number 3, again, in case you haven't heard me, why didn't you have something lined up? Why don't you have a merger? Why don't you have an acquisition? Why don't you have a partnership? Why in the world would you risk losing 3/4 of shareholder value? And 3 weeks now into this reverse split, you've got nada. And if I knew my Italian, and I'm half Italian, or as I like to say, if I haven't offended everybody yet, I'm Irish from the waist up and Italian from the waist down. Was it you? 3 million shares, the first 60 seconds, Thursday, April 5th. Why aren't you buying any stock? We need an answer, preferably in public on Twitter. And how in the hell did you go through all this rebrand and risk losing all of this shareholder equity without anything lined up? You can't tell us the non-public information, but come out and tell us something. We've got a number of acquisitions in sight. We've got XYZ that's in the hopper. We've got something. Instead, you're arguing with your shareholders that want to crucify you in court. Until next time, in what has to be one of the most interesting videos I've ever done, always remember that I love you guys and gals, and I appreciate you watching.